So good, so good, so good.
New markdowns up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. And that means thousands of can't-miss deals just in time for summer.
The denim section is unreal.
Why do I rack? All the dresses.
I always find something amazing.
Plus, buy it online and pick it up in-store the same day for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
This is Cop Talk, talking crime, cases, and backing the blue. Now, here are your hosts, Captain Ed Mehmet and Detective Kevin Schroeder.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cop Talk. My name is Kevin Schroeder, retired NYPD detective. I'm here with my co-host, retired Captain Ed Mehmet.
Hello, listeners to WABC. We are here in Washington, D.C., and we're going to interview some very interesting fellows from Cleveland.
Okay, we're down here in Washington, D.C. for the National Police Week. We're here with three members of the Cleveland Police Department, John Kubas, Mike Schroeder, and Tom Ross. John, welcome. Guys, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Kevin.
So, John, I'll start with you, if that's okay. Would you tell me, what brings you down here this week to National Police Week?
I'm John Kubas. I'm a sergeant with the Cleveland Division of Police, and I'm currently assigned to the 3rd District, which encompasses the downtown area of Cleveland, the part of the near west side, and some of the eastern end of the city of Cleveland. I'm down here with co-workers and friends, and we're down here to celebrate Detective James Skernivitz, who was killed in the line of duty back in September of 2020.
Mike?
Sergeant Michael J. Schroeder. I'm also with the City of Cleveland Division of Police. I'm in the 4th District Detective Bureau / Violent Crime Reduction Team, and I'm also a delegate with the FOP Lodge 8, which encompasses the supervisors.
Tom?
Tom Ross, assigned to the city's 1st District, which is the far west side of Cleveland. Down here with, like John said, other members of the Honor Guard to honor all our fallen officers from across the country.
Right.
So.
And unfortunately, you lost Detective James Skernivitz, known as Skern, right?
Yes.
And he was killed in line of duty back in September of 2020. Could you just touch on that a little bit, if you guys don't mind?
Yeah, so it was on September 3rd of 2020. It was later in the night, I believe it was around between 10 and 11 p.m. James Skernivitz was working in the gang impact unit for the City of Cleveland Division of Police. And at the time, he was with a confidential, reliable informant, and they were putting together information on a case that James was investigating. They were sitting in a car. It was an SUV, and they were parked behind a closed business over on the near west side in the city of Cleveland. The parking lot was empty. There were some lights in the parking lot, and they were sitting back there setting up the operation, doing some information gathering, when they were approached by 3 individuals. One turned out to be an adult and 2 juveniles. They approached the car that Skern was sitting in with the informant, and they just opened fire on Jim. Jim, seeing him walk up, actually tried to drive away, and but to no avail. He was struck in the under the armpit, which pierced his heart and lungs, and subsequently caused him to crash the car into a pole. And also the confidential informant in the car with him was also struck by the gunfire, and they succumbed to their injuries later at the hospital. So Jim was put on the wall in October of 2021, and we came down here at that time to honor him when he was put on the wall and participate in the activities. Jim was an avid member of the Honor Guard, Cleveland Police Honor Guard. He loved it. He spent numerous years coming down here to honor other fallen officers. This was a tradition for Jim, and we kind of keep that up to honor him and keep his tradition alive of coming to D.C. and honoring our fallen officers from around the country.
I'm going to kind of switch a little bit and kind of give a funny story about Jim. We worked together in the gang unit. We were both detectives. We did a lot of undercover work together. And some of the best times of my career were with Jimmy. And I can recall, he was always a freeze baby. So we'd be in the car, and he'd be turning the heat up. I'd be turning it back down. We'd be turning the heat up. It was like a tropical. It was like it was going to rain in there. So I started ripping the knobs off. We'd rip the knobs off inside the car. Somehow he still was able to get his fingers and turn that heat on. It'd be a constant battle back and forth, and we'd just laugh and just all the good times we had together. I mean, we had one incident where I had just got done doing an undercover buy, and we were driving, and I didn't have any of my equipment, and a guy came in front of us right with a gun. So I jumped out, I started chasing him, and we're yelling back and forth. He's going this way, he's going that way, he's going this way, he's going that way, and we ended up catching him and finding him and everything. But it's just the best times of my career were with Jimmy, and I miss him so much. You know, every day I think about him, I wake up, and I wear his bracelet every day, and you know, and I still do what I do because of him, because he'd tell us, he'd be like, hey, keep up the good fight, guys. So that's what we did, you know. So that's about all I got for you guys. But
So he was a jokester.
Yeah, 100% jokester, you know, and playing pranks on you. You know, he'd come up to you and he'd stick his fingers underneath your nose and just be like, hey, Bubba, you know, and you just out of nowhere, you know, and just the funny things that he would do. When you're in a bad mood, he'd get us rocking and rolling in the office, ready to go, you know. He was like the OG.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback off what Mike said. I mean, constantly. So everything, there was not a conversation that Skern and I had in 20 years that didn't come back to some one-liner from A Few Good Men. You know, and it would turn, put my name in where Colonel Jesper, and it's ironically the day he was killed, and I'll never forget him. I've saved them, I've printed them out, I've put them on a flash drive, was our text message thread, which was like 12:39 that day. And sure enough, it's back and forth, Tommy boy, I think she outranks you and stuff like that. And I'll never forget, I came off the road that night about 2200, 10 p.m., and it was a beautiful, beautiful full harvest moon. And I took a picture of it.
Wow.
And there was just this beautiful breeze coming through, and I'm walking from the back parking lot into the district, and my phone just keeps ringing. And I've got both my hands full, so I don't answer the phone. So I get up the door, guys are flying out the door. There's been, there's an officer shot in the second. So I go in, check in with my boss, and then at the same time I finally answer the phone. It's actually one of the COs of the Honor Guard telling me that it had been Jim that was hit. So I turn around and just fly to Metro, and by the time I got there, he'd already been pronounced dead. But it was just a good lesson, in this job that you just don't know. An old timer told me we don't pick the day picks us.
Yes,
and
true.
10 hours before we're all standing over his body at Metro Hospital, here he is, joking and just being what he was. Yeah. And I'll never forget that side of him. And like John alluded to, I think we'll keep coming here as long as we're members of this department, and maybe long after.
I can relate to what happened because I did 5 years of undercover work, and I was just wondering, do you think this was a setup because they knew there were drugs in the car and money? That's usually what happens. Or was it just a random kind of holdup?
I think it was more of a random type thing. We're not 100% sure, but it seemed random because of the way the parking lot was empty. No one knew they were going there. They used that as just a meat spot, to start the operation. So I don't believe that it was a setup. I believe that it was just a random thing, wrong place, wrong time. Like, Patrolman Ross said, when it's our time, it's our time. Unfortunately, you can't call it, and I just think it was a random thing.
Well, about 20 years ago, there was a case somewhat similar where two detectives making an undercover buy were murdered in the car. Do you remember that, Kevin?
Which one? You talking about the?
It was in Staten Island.
The detectives. It was actually, they were doing a gun buy.
A gun buy, right? And they were killed in the car. So it's kind of very dangerous, and the people listening should know that undercover work is extremely dangerous.
Yeah, it's very dangerous.
Which way it's going to go?
Yeah.
Right. Now, there's arrests made, right? They were arrested.
That's correct.
Three perpetrators, I believe.
Yes.
Weapons recovered.
They were, the weapons were recovered. They had actually dismantled the weapons.
So there was arrest made on that too, I believe. There was more
Yeah,
people
there was,
involved in that process?
Yes. Yes.
So, okay, and then this has gone to trial already, this case?
Yes.
Yeah, so there was persons were charged in this. There was 3 shooters, and then there's some other people involved with this after the incident, which they hid the evidence for the suspects. Good detective work by the Cleveland Division of Police, Jimmy's co-workers. They were able to apprehend the suspects rather quickly and recover the evidence and put this case together. Ultimately, one male was just sentenced back in April, received a 50-plus year sentence for the killing of Detective Skernivitz and the confidential informant. The other 2 were juveniles. One in the state of Ohio, they have called juvenile life. I believe that he was 15 at the time, so he's 18 now, but I think he'll just stay in juvenile lockup till he's 21, as long as he doesn't cause any problems within the jail or anything to extend his sentence. And then the other individual got some jail time too, but never enough justice for Jimmy. But unfortunately, things like this happen. We know this when we get on the job. Like Tom said, the day's picked for us.
You have any funny stories, good stories? I mean, good memories?
Yeah, actually, the funny thing was I started at Cleveland Division of Police in 1997, and I worked in the 4th District, and I actually worked with Tom for a little bit, and I put in for a transfer, and in the year 2003, I got sent to the 4th District, I got sent to the 3rd District, where I happen to currently work now. And I get out to the 3rd District, and I didn't know Jim Skernivitz at the time. And my first impression of him was like, wow, who's this guy? Like, he's always a jokester and all that. And I didn't know him, so he kind of like rubbed me the wrong way at first. And I was like, okay, because I didn't. And then once I got to know Jim, we became like best friends. And I look back at that and I laugh, because at first that's just kind of how he was. If you didn't really know him, he might come off as a little like abrasive or a little cocky or whatever at the time, but I mean he was your best friend. I mean, when he got to know you, he took care of you and looked out for you. There's just so many funny stories I can't recall them all. They live up in my memories. But he was one of my guys, and when I needed something done, he was my go-to guy, and I'd bring him along with me. And I know you had an opportunity to see him and meet him on several occasions. So
yes, I did. Yes, yeah, Skern was a lot of fun. As we know, we call him Skern.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody. He was known as Skern. No one really. I think I don't know who called him by first name. Maybe when he's getting yelled at by his wife or his mom or something. But other than that, it was Skern.
Did the city of Cleveland make good on his death by taking care of his family?
Yeah, fortunately, through the Blue Coats organization, Blue Coats, they're police supporters, we're businesses, business leaderships, and they'd get together and they help the family out. I think they get their house paid off and kids get college tuition, and a lot of the companies, we had big support out there in the city of Cleveland. So, of course, it's never enough to replace Jimmy, but they did help out, and we did have an overwhelming amount of response from the community when this happened.
Donating food and drinks and, just all the cards that came in. There was a lot of stuff. I mean, that, the community really did come together.
But does the city have a specific provision, like New York City has what's called a widow's pension, where the city actually pays the pension to the widow for life? Yours sounds like it was more like private donations.
Well, no, I mean, it's kind of a complex because, there's in line of duty deaths, there's federal benefits, there's state benefits, there's, the donations we talked about in Blue Coat. So I can't speak, we can't speak specifically, but it's, it's one of those. Yeah.
At the time of the funeral, which I also attended with some members from NYPD who were friends with Skern and got to know him as well as you guys. In regards to his family, now he has a wife and children, correct?
Yeah. So Jim had a son, and then when he married Kristen, they had 2 children together. So he had a son outside of before he married Kristen, his wife, and then they had 2 kids together. At the time, they were all adults, younger adults, and then his oldest son actually lives in the state of Texas, and he had lived with Kristen and the 2 kids there in the Cleveland area.
And at his funeral, at the time, Attorney General Barr attended, correct, and spoke at the.
Yeah. So Jim was as part of the gang unit within the city of Cleveland. They were close with the FBI and other federal agencies, and Jim was sworn in as a task force officer. Actually, the night before, he never even told me about it. I talked to Jim every afternoon. At the time, I was working a 7 to 3 shift. I'd get off work, and he would go in 5 or 6 o'clock. So between that 3 and o'clock, we'd either text or get on the phone and talk. And the night before he got sworn in, he never even told me. So I was surprised at it. So actually, at the time, he was as a task force officer. He carried those credentials, and obviously at the time, AG Barr, appreciated Jim's sacrifice and being so new, sworn into the FBI task force, that he felt he had to come out and he did speak at his funeral. It was very nice and touching that he was able to recognize him.
Can you tell us anything about Cleveland politics and the police department?
Well, I think it's just like every big city on the political wise. Cleveland's suffering a lot of the same stuff that the big cities, like New York, LA, obviously at a much smaller scale because Cleveland's not as big as size. But we have our difficulties now. It's not unique to Cleveland, but we are having a problem with recruiting at the time, which is common in a lot of the big police departments, and it's really happened over the last several years. There's a lot of reasons for that, but we're trying, and we're trying to do our best.
How many police officers do you have now? How many members?
So currently, we're around 1,300 officers right now.
1,300, and is that down from?
So if you go to the peak, when I started in the year 1997, we had nearly 2,000 officers. So just in that 26-year period, we had lost approximately 600 to 700 officers due to a variety of different reasons. Recently now, just a lot of guys are just choosing to retire, which is, I think, common in Cleveland and New York City and a lot of the other big police departments. So we're struggling, but we're doing the best we can.
Now, John, you retired and came back with the drop program.
So what we have in the state of Ohio, once you put in 25 years and you reach the age limit, the state of Ohio, the retirement system, offers a program called DROP, Deferred Retirement Option Pension, which allows you to continue to work and collect your normal salary, and instead of collecting your pension money when you're eligible, that pension money goes into a little separate savings account where you can accrue interest and additional savings, and it keeps some of the veteran law enforcement officers around a little longer instead of opting to retire when they hit that time. So it's a good program. Unfortunately, on the police department, this seems like less and less are opting into that. They're just choosing to retire. And then the state of Ohio, our pension system shared with the firemen. So the firemen also have that option at the same time, and not a lot of them are in that program, but it seems like the police levels are going lower for that, but I'm sure there's many reasons why. The ironic thing was back in 2020, I was around 2 years from retirement, and Jim was just maybe 2 years, 6 months, and just in a few days before he got murdered, we had conversations of, hey, Jimmy, we got to decide what we want to do. Just kind of mulling that around. Do we retire? Do we go in the drop? What we're going to do. Because as everybody knows, 2020 was a little turbulent year for law enforcement. A lot of challenges came our way, when we got through it. But, you got to look on the realistic side. We had families, and, if we didn't have to work anymore, we'd have to make that decision. And, if we were going to retire or keep working. And we just talked about that actually several days before he got killed.
So the drop program, you defer your pension, correct?
Yeah. Right now it's up to 8 years. And then you got to do a minimum of 5. If you leave before the 5th year, You can't touch any of your drop money.
So it's like a contract you sign?
Kind of like a contract, yeah. You can retire at any time, but you just can't touch that money that goes into the drop account to that set time period of 5 years. And then, once you hit your 8th year is complete, you have to leave. You have to leave your department. Then you collect your pension, and then you'll have access to the drop money. So it's a little incentive for some of the old timers to be able to stick around a little bit.
Yeah, well, in New York City, what's the age limit with Cleveland? New York City, it's 63 years old. You have to move on.
Yeah, so we currently, it was, when I got on, it was 48. Now it's 52, just to be able to retire with 25 years of service. And then currently now the city of Cleveland, once you hit age 65, you have to leave.
65,
Yeah.
Even 65 is young. So if you want to stick around, it's a great program. Come stick around doing the same job. Your pension's safe, and you're still collecting a salary.
As I recall, some years ago, there was discussion about the equivalent of a drop program in New York, but the unions were against it. They were worried that people coming back would prevent in-service cops from getting promoted, interfering. You know how unions behave. Anybody that comes in from outside, there's a resentment, even though they were cops. So it's, and I think it went over big out west. But I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, so you currently, you don't, I guess it'd say that you're retired on paper. You're still active. I never retired within the city. Just as the pension system, you notify them that you'd like to enter drop, and once you hit the qualifications, that's it. So as far as the city's concerned, we're still regular. I kept my rank, and it was just like status quo. So it's something more on the pension end in the state of Ohio. So the department really has nothing to do with entering drop or not. We just go to it on our own, and we just stay in our current role wherever we're at, whatever we're assigned to.
You did what you did before. You're actually on patrol. Yeah,
so I'm a sergeant. Currently, I do administrative duties within one of our 5 police districts, which is District 3. So yeah, I'm still considered under the patrol section too. Yeah.
So your job description never changed. It's like
correct. It never
left.
It never changed. It's like you never leave. So it's something through the pension system, and then the city keeps contributing as they normally would, and so there's really no change on it. Where the city would, at least the way it is in the state of Ohio. I know some other states have drop. I guess it all depends on each state.
Mic check. 1, 2. Are we recording? Hi, I'm Michelle Bernstein, an award-winning chef, restaurateur, and mom. I have a lot on my plate, including my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. That's why I was prescribed Cosentyx. It helps me move better.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
Tom, being with the union, do you find that you're on the executive board for the union, correct?
Correct.
Do you find you guys are more busy now today with today's climate, with all allegations and false allegations?
Oh yeah. So we have 3 members on full-time release to the CPPA. So the CPPA represents non-supervisory patrol, detectives, and the dispatchers. All 3 people that are detailed to the union are all disciplined all the time. Some of the things when I was previously on the board from 06 to 14, we had time to, focus on fundraising and, made sure we had our hand at the political table, forming alliances with different, community organizations. So we've kind of, got off the boat with that a little bit because everyone's so busy from some aspect of discipline. So we're hoping to change that. Under this current chief, things appear to have gotten a little easier, a little more common sense,
Right.
Realizing that officers make mistakes, and he seems to understand that and give guys a break where it's needed, and we appreciate that. So hopefully going forward, I mean, in the end, listen, we're all wearing the same badge, we're in the same uniform, and I know, these guys have been my friends for a long time. I know they're proud to be Cleveland cops. I'm proud to be a Cleveland cop. I've got total 26 years in. I had some previous time before coming to Cleveland. My retirement's nowhere in sight. And I think we have an obligation to coming here every year like we do to bring this younger generation and teach them the things. I mean, they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
So, we don't bash them and, this and that. We try to pull them along and show them the good things about the job. So hopefully we can continue to keep doing that. I know Skern would if he were here.
Yeah.
Do you have a civilian complaint review board or its equivalent?
Yes. No one likes to be the subject of a complaint, but we understand it comes with the territory. I think what a lot of society doesn't understand is, no one looks for special treatment, just fair treatment. Innocent until proven guilty, or I remember one time there was a lot of things that were going on in the department. My wife, who works in the financial services industry, they sat around and what would we have to do to get that kind of punishment? And they couldn't even think of something. And it bothers a lot of kids. A lot of these kids are, they're scared of that kind of thing, of getting, in trouble for doing that. And I just pray in general in our field that it doesn't cost someone getting hurt.
Right.
Because they were scared to use force, or they were scared to draw their weapon.
Right.
It's a real concern.
It is very concerning. Mike, you're also a delegate, correct? With
Yes, with the FOP, correct.
And how's that compared to, say, being a delegate with Cleveland PBA?
We represent all the supervisors, so we still follow the same, the contracts almost mirror each other. They're a little bit off. We all follow the same policies and general police orders and things like that. We just have a lot less members. I think we're probably at 300 and something now. We're down probably 50 sergeants close to, and I think we're down 3 lieutenants and a couple captains. So we're also at low numbers with supervisors too. So we're doing the best that we can with what we have, and we have a state conference coming up here soon in June, and then we have the national that we're going to be attending in Vegas. So.
Okay.
That's coming up in August.
August is Vegas.
Yes.
Should be very hot in Vegas.
Yes.
In August.
It'll be interesting. It's my first one, so I'm excited. I heard there's a lot of good classes and stuff that you can take there, and meet a lot of good people. I'm excited because I'm thinking about actually running for an executive spot here in the next couple of years when some of our executives retire. So.
We have many listeners who are not familiar with what FOP means. Could you explain to our listeners what the initials FOP stand for?
Fraternal Order of Police, and they're a nationwide organization, and then they have lodges throughout all the different states. We're Lodge 8 in Cleveland, Ohio. And a lot of the suburbs use FOP, their patrolmen and their bosses. Like I said, in Cleveland, it's just the supervisors. But they're a national organization, and they're a very well-respected organization, and they do donate a lot of stuff to other charities with, throughout the United States and abroad. They do a lot of stuff with kids and all those kind of things.
Yeah, I think the FOP is just like the PBA. It's just, different letters from the alphabet. It's the same type thing. I know in New York they use, PBA, but we use the patrolmen in the city of Cleveland. I have the Cleveland Police Patrolmen Association. And the supervisors, like Mike said, we're under the FOP. A lot of times we mirror the same stuff, like he said, though. But just an organization similar to your PBA, like in New York, you guys were under.
Well, there was a time when the FOP tried to move in on the New York City Police Department. This is maybe 30 years ago. There was quite a bit of a controversy.
Now you guys are in the color guard, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you're also
so that the
while you're here.
Matter of fact, Skern's the one who recruited me to get into the honor guard, and every year he'd ask me to come to DC with him, and every year I came up with an excuse, and then I that's something I got to live with now. And then the first time I actually came here with the honor guard was when we put him on the wall, and then now I plan on attending as every year that I could go, and I got to live with not going with him because I missed out on that, and so I make sure I go now to help keep his memory, and I know he's up there watching us now. He was big into the honor guard, though. He loved this stuff. We did a lot of funerals, unfortunately. In the city of Cleveland, we'll do retirees' funerals, of course, line of duty deaths. Other smaller departments within the state of Ohio have called us, our Cleveland Police Honor Guard, and we've assisted them and sometimes even ran funerals on some of the smaller departments within Ohio. So Jimmy was always there. Tom, Mike, we a lot of good times together. And Jimmy always made us laugh, and he was big into the police memorial stuff. When I wouldn't go, he'd get mad at me, but then he'd bring me back something like a coin or a memorial coin or something. Or a T-shirt. Jimmy was an average softball player too. And matter of fact, he played with some guys out of the Pittsburgh Police Department. And anybody knows Cleveland and Pittsburgh are like brother sister, and with the football teams and all that, there's that big rivalry, and Jimmy would go out to Pittsburgh and play softball with those guys, and just a great overall guy to be around.
Now, John, you said you were an ambassador last night at the candlelight visit.
Yeah, so Tom over here is an ambassador for the National Law Enforcement Week, and the National Law Enforcement Memorial, and they asked Tom to come out this year, and Tom recruited us, asked us to help out, and we gladly did. We're here. That's we'll do it. And we had worked the candlelight visual last night. It's like ushers and kind of keep an eye on the gates, directing people where to go, doing stuff like that. And we owe credit to Tom to getting that lined up for us.
Last night was a very, it's a nice event the way they set it up, and the members of service, their families were there. Right, SOS, Survivor of the Shield, they were there from all over the country. It was a very nice ceremony. It really did it nice. And now, what are you guys going to do tonight? What's on the agenda for today and tonight?
Well, we'll be heading down to New Jersey and F Street. The National Emerald Society holds their annual parade and service. So we'll be going down there, and we'll march from that location up to the memorial, where the National Emerald Society officers will be having a service. So a lot of pipe bands there. There'll be a lot of great music and color guards, and probably some fellowship afterwards. And then we'll all be, tomorrow's National Peace Officers Memorial Day that President Kennedy declared in 1963. So our survivor families will be at the Capitol. We'll be over at the actual memorial doing another service sponsored by the ambassadors. So the ambassador program, National Law Enforcement Officer Memorial, is something I just got involved in, and essentially we're split the country into regions. So it's going to be my duties to promote the memorial, the museum, and then promote our officer wellness programs, and most importantly, to assist an agency when they suffer a line of duty death. A lot of agencies, they've never had one, and they have no idea what to do, where to start. And the first thing they're going to be is bombarded to do this, do that. So the memorial comes in and provides some stability, recognizes an agency that can help them out. But for the cops on here listening, you've got to get to this week at least once in your career, and you'll probably, if you get that one time, you will pledge like us to come back as often as you can.
I agree.
It's really an overwhelming experience, especially if you're adding a name. Since John's most senior among us, we've added 9 names since he came on, 8 since I came on. There's 111 total Cleveland PD. So, there's a lot of names in our agency here and the surrounding areas. So.
Yes. New York had many. Unfortunately,
New
York had many as well.
A couple of years at Candlelight Vigil, when we did, normally we were in our Class A's and we do escorts, but one of them was a 9/11 cancer death, and I just walking with that family and hearing all about her, it's something you never forget.
No, and what's sad too is many law enforcement personnel died on 9/11, as we all know, But since 9/11, there's been double, almost maybe soon going to be unfortunately triple the amount of law enforcement personnel. Not only from New York, because everyone responded. From Kansas City or Cleveland, Ohio. You guys were there. I mean, and you got it. Do you guys go for the 9/11 checkup every year? Do you go for your checkup every year with the 9/11 program?
We didn't go to post 9/11 not immediately. We went there, I think 60 days after for a ceremony. But no, we were not on the. We wanted to go, and we were scratching and clawing to get permission, but no.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of police personnel, first responders who came to New York a week later, a month later, they don't realize, and hopefully they're being educated now, but they didn't realize that, hey, that we have a program here. It's a 9/11 program that you need to be checked out once a year, because God forbid, you get sick, and as we see what's happening now, you want to make sure you get the proper care, and God forbid, your family's taken care of. A lot of folks don't know that, and they should know that. We try to put that message out there on this podcast, Cop Talk.
Yeah, some time ago we had the people involved in the program, and they wanted it known that anybody that was down there, even if they're not from New York, is eligible for the program. And hundreds of out-of-town cops responded. I remember people coming in from all over the place. They are eligible for the program, and a lot of them don't know it. So if you have anybody that was from your agency that went there to 9/11 at the time and they're having problems, you should encourage them to get involved with the 9/11 monitoring program.
Yes, thank you, yeah.
Do you have people that went?
I think we might have I think some people went on their own, if I remember correctly. It's going back a few years, so my memory's fading a little bit, but I know some, and then like Tom went, like 60 days after some of the guys went for some services after. But
we'll make sure to give you guys that information.
Yeah.
If you can pass it along to Cleveland.
We appreciate that, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, I just think these fellows deserve a lot of credit.
They sure do.
Thank you.
Sure do.
Thank you.
So do you guys.
Yeah.
You guys paved the way for us. I mean,
Yeah, it's an honor to sit here with you guys.
with you guys.
Definitely.
Well, Kevin and I got out. If we were in today, I think we wouldn't last. We'd take a hell of a beating.
Yeah.
New York has so many problems. I mean, the crazy city council. Are you familiar with the chest compression law? You ever hear of that one?
No.
In New York, if you do anything with the prisoner, like put pressure on the chest, you can get arrested. Right?
Go cold.
And then qualified immunity, you know about that?
Yes.
So the New York City Council will not allow qualified immunity to be used as a defense by the city's lawyers, and neither will the state of New York. So the cops in New York, they're constrained by all these stupid, laws. That's why they're having a tough time recruiting.
Yeah, face a lot of challenges. I think it's similar in a lot of cities, big cities, unfortunately. But like as law enforcement, I say, we get the job done no matter what the politicians or whatever they throw our way. I think the good men and women that are on this police department, we get the job done at the end of the day. Even those barriers we got to face, and those, always someone watching, big brother and watching every move you make, but we still get the job done, and we'll continue to do that. And like I said, Jimmy would have continued to do it, and that's why, even for myself, even after this, I considered hanging it up after Jimmy died. But, I still want to be here. I want to be here as long as I can, and, hopefully they got to drag me out kicking and screaming. I don't know if those days are like that anymore, but I plan on staying as long as I can within that program, and I want to pass some stuff on to the younger generation. Me and Tom are academy instructors on the side. I just had the recruits last week. Tom has them coming up, and I try to pass some of our good institutional knowledge down on them, and treat everybody right, and things will go your way.
So I'd like to thank Sergeant John Kubas, Sergeant Mike Schroeder, same last name.
Yes.
We're related somewhere, I'm sure. And, of course, Police Officer Tom Ross.
Can I leave you with another funny story about Skern?
Sure.
So we're in the gang unit, and we're all growing our hair out, right? Because that's the thing. When you're undercover, you grow the big beard there, right? So Skern, he's got a baby face. No one would know his age. You'd think he was in his late 30s, early 40s. He was in his 50s, right? So we all growing our hair out, and I actually have a great picture of us, just four of us together. We got all our long hair, and he's got this it looks like a head of broccoli on his head. But he still wants to do the honor guard, so he can't grow any facial hair. So he's got this head of broccoli, and it's just sprouted up like this, So he would slick it back when he'd do the honor guard. But we would laugh, and we got this great picture of him that says we're all there. We got our hairs, and he's got this big head of broccoli sitting on top of his head. But that was just Jimmy. I mean, he'd be like, I'm in, but he couldn't grow the facial hair, so he just it was the funniest picture. And we just the fun that we had with him. He had a knack about bringing people together too, like the three of us and one of our other close friends, Lieutenant Ed Lentz, who couldn't make it this year. They were partners together, and like the four of us are pretty tight because of him, And we talk a lot, and we share stories, and send pictures back and forth to Skern, And it's a brotherhood that we've formed, and it's going to be lifelong, And we're going to keep his memory alive, and. And he'd want us to be here. He'd want us to be like, get your butts out there and march, boys.
Yeah, that's great.
So
just all the cops out there, man, just stay in the fight. I mean, in the end, it's about that man and woman next to you.
Yeah.
I think that's the picture
that's
there.
the picture,
I found on my phone, yeah.
Yeah, he's got that head of broccoli on there.
Yep.
But, I mean, just talking about him makes me tear up, because he's Skerny, man,
Guys, thank you so much, Cleveland Police Department, for being here. Thank you for sharing some great stories about Skern. Okay, once again, I was fortunate to meet him through John, and I had a lot of fun with him with the short time I got to know him and be around him. But thank you guys so much. Once again, Sergeant John Kubas from Cleveland Police Department, Sergeant Mike Schroeder, and Police Officer Tom Ross. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
So live from Washington, D.C., we're going to sign off now. Thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of Cop Talk. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, and please be safe out there. Thank you.